Well, hello again. Welcome back to our little shop. Today we're going to be taking a look at this 77 model Fender Precision bass. It's in the Antigua collar, which also known on the street as Moonburst. So the customer brought it in complaining about some buzzing issues. He had a dead spot up here, and it was buzzing badly up to about the 7th fret. But what it turns out to be here is we have a backbone and neck with full string tension and no truss rod tension. We also have a kick up back here. I've seen this back bow problem quite a few times with Fenders over the years, mainly with the all maple necks, and I have a theory, and it's only a theory. When these necks are made, the frets are shot in until the early 80s from the bass side and neck toward the treble side, which is a really good idea when it's done properly, because since the fret is not put in from the top, it does not want to pop loose. So the barbs on the tangling fret wire is completely under the surface of the fingerboard, which again, like I say, is a good idea. Leo had a good one there, a very good one. So what I think happens is when these necks are made originally, we have a rough cut neck blank with the fingerboard radius on it, the fret slots cut, and the inlays in. And they shoot the frets in from the side, then use a pin router to shape the profile of the neck, and then do the neck carve on the back. And when they remove the wood from the back of the neck, I believe that the stored tension of each one of these frets, acting like a little wedge, actually bows the neck backwards. Like I say, it's only a theory, but it's my theory. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is actually pull the frets. I will actually be driving them out the treble side of the neck, the same direction they went in, because if you try to pull them out from the top, you're going to pull big chunks up, regardless no matter what you do. So we're going to drive them back out like they were put in originally. We're going to jig the neck up, true the fingerboard up. We're going to build some relief into it. Then we're going to recut the fret slots and then refret it after I've refinished the fingerboard. So it's going to be a little bit of work. First thing I need to do is remove the finish from the treble side of the neck here. So it all looks like most of it's worn off anyway. So we're going to clean that up a little bit so the frets have a nice exit point. Of course, I'll be taking this neck off and putting it on other apparatus to be working on it. So anyway, oh, here's something nifty. I just noticed this. Here is a strap lock that has been rendered useless by an oversized screw. Okay? And I know the owner didn't do that. He just bought the bass. Got the other one. Yep, the other one's fine. Apparently, we've stripped out a screw here. So anyway, I just find that amusing. So we're going to tear this bass down, get started on it. Okay, just another quick note here. I want to show you something. I've just got the neck off the body, and this is how much back bow this neck actually has with no string tension on it. Look at this rock. That's with the truss rod completely loose. Okay? Just wanted you to see that. This is just for the benefit of those of you that have never seen anything like this before. This is actually where these frets come out. I say they're driven in from the bass side toward the treble side, so all the wood has already been driven that way, so we want to keep going that direction, keep tearing anything up. But they actually just slide out like this. You got to put a little effort on it. But if you look, you'll see how clean the slots are. You can see there's no tang marks that have been driven down from the top. There you go. Just wanted you to see how that actually works. At this point, we've got a few frets out, and we're going to keep moving on. Well, we've made it to the neck jig. Got all the frets out. I've sanded the fingerboard just enough to get rid of the finish. I haven't tried to straighten anything out yet. But I've got it here under string tension. And it's just laying here. I haven't even jigged it up yet. So it's basically in a neutral state at this point. So something I want to point out here, I mentioned my theory about the frets bowing the neck backwards. Let's take a look here. Funny thing, we have a little hump right up here. We still have our kick up back here. Alright, but if you look, we've got a little gap. We actually have a couple thousandths of relief here we didn't have earlier. And I'm pretty sure that's because the frets are upon. So, just saying. Anyway, here we are about 3.5 hours into this job so far. At this point, of course, I've got the frets out and the fingerboard cleaned up. I jigged it up and rough leveled the fingerboard to get rid of a few nasty spots. Then I strung it back up and rejigged it with an intentional 25 thousandths back bow in the neck. So I jigged it up at that point, took the strings back off, zeroed it back on the neck jig, and proceeded to clean up the fingerboard. So at that point I did all the truing on the fingerboard. The kick up back here had been already taken out. The hump up here had been taken out. So at this point what I had to do is rejig everything and then clean up this back bow by sanding it all out and truing the fingerboard back up. So now what we have is a perfectly level fingerboard. It's properly radiused at 7 1/4. I've checked that also. And then what we have is a neck that with string tension, no truss rod tension, and no frets, we have just a bit over 25 thousandths relief. So what that's going to do is when I put my frets in, and the way I'm going to put the frets in, I'm going to have basically zero tension here. So it's not going to be backbowing the neck any. There's going to be a little bit of pressure on it, but very little. Another trick I learned several years ago. Anyway, when I get this taken care of, hopefully when it's all over and done with and it's refretted, that we will be able to get the truss rod to have 25 thousandths roughly relief and be able to straighten out our back bow with the truss rod. So we're all cleaned up, the fingerboard's been sanded, it's all prepped. I'm going to tear this back down and it's going to head off to the home shop to get some lacquer. We'll refinish the fingerboard and then it will be ready for new frets and a new nut, and then we'll carry on. So we will see how this is going to play out. Well, we're back in the shop. It's been a few weeks. We've got our lacquer cured here on this fingerboard. It's all been sanded down and ready to go. We have to clean out the fret slots again and chamfer them. Get ready to start cutting frets. So I'm going to get this mounted onto my little neck block here so I can stick it in the vise and we're going to get this rolling. For this part of the process, we're using some acid-free drafting tape underneath some regular cheap masking tape to protect the fingerboard while we reslot these. First thing we do is we chamfer this slightly with the pippin file to bevel the lacquer edges back away from the fret slot edges so it doesn't chip. Then we are using our saw here with the plexiglass guide on it. It's adjustable for depth and all that. And we basically just saw down through, clean up the slot, then clean it out with X-Acto, make sure everything's good and clean. And what that gives us is a perfectly clean 22 thousandths wide fret slot. Got to get all the lacquer out of it, all the dust, all the residue. It's got to be a clean slot. Okay, that's one ready. 19 more to go. We've managed to get all the frets in, trimmed, the neck back on my surrogate body here, and strung up. Well, let's set here a couple days to see how this reacts to string tension on it now. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Without any truss rod tension at this point, we actually have 25 thousandths relief in the neck, which is going to make it very easy for me to get the 16 that I want. I'll put a little bit of tension on it. I can actually back bow this neck and forward bow it as I want to with the truss rod. So this is working out. We'll just let this set a couple days here under tension. Weekend's coming up. I'll just let it go the weekend, and then first of the week jump back on it and get into the fret dress and get this back together. But I think we're going to work out just fine. Well, there we go. Fret work's all done. Let's move on to making a new bone nut. I can do all that while still on this surrogate body, string it up and do all that, and I can actually have the neck adjusted, ready to put back on the body. So here we go. Now, finally, yesterday we finished up the fret dress and got our new bone nut made while we still had it on our surrogate body. We adjusted the neck relief and all that, so it's ready to bolt on. So late yesterday afternoon, early evening, I bolted it on, went to string it up, found out that we needed a volume control, and we had several bridge saddles frozen. Our adjustment bolts were frozen. So after a liberal application of liquid wrench there, let it set overnight, we loosened some of that up, had to replace one of those screws, replaced the volume control, cleaned up the electronics and all that, put a proper screw in this strap lock button, put the base all together, strung it up, set it up very quickly. So got about another hour in today with changing the volume pot and intonation and all that and setting up. So we have it finished. 11 hours total. But what we have here is a neck that is perfect now. I have my relief in it I want. There's no dead spots. There's no kick up. Pretty good for a bass that you couldn't play up to the 5th fret before without extremely high action. That still buzzed. So we have our refinished fingerboard, we have our new frets, we have our new bone nut, we have our new volume pot. We're good to go. So we're gonna button this little guy up, move it to the done pile. We'll check it a few more times before the weekend before it leaves. But since the neck has already been strung up for like a week on the surrogate body, we've got a pretty good jump start on this. So hope you enjoyed this. It's just another example of some of my jobs aren't that easy. So, till next time, play nice